Hello, bonjour, ciao, and welcome to my YouTube channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Tolu and I'm a first year medic at the University of Oxford. And I wanted to film a video today just kind of breaking down why I chose to apply to the medical schools that I applied to. And I wanted to do that alongside me doing my makeup, because I found in my last video that a lot of you guys liked the look, you enjoyed just sitting down with me as I did my makeup and spoke about how I did what I did for my medical application. So I thought it would be nice to continue that as a part of a new series called Medicine and Makeup. So in this video I'm wearing a nice little red top because today's colour scheme is red. And I've got my makeup over here and my mirror right here, so in case I don't look at the camera that is why. And this video is also slightly different because I've got my natural hair out for a change, so I just felt like it'd be nice to maybe mix and match different hairstyles as I continue this series as well. And yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. So now that my contacts are on, I'm going to start doing my makeup, and like I usually do, I begin with my brows. And it's going to be a bit difficult because my hair is in the way of my brows, but we'll keep going with that. And I'll leave all of the products that I use in this video in the description box below, so if you like anything that I'm using, you can sort of check it out from there. But I wanted to start off this video by talking about my actual options. So other than Oxford, I applied to St Andrews, Nottingham and Imperial, and those are only 4 options. And I know when it comes to your UCAS application you can actually apply to 5 universities, but usually they advise you, if you were to take medicine, to have 4 medical options and then 1 safety option in case things don't necessarily go your way with your medicine application. But for me personally, I just didn't feel like it just didn't sit right with me to apply to another university that I knew I wasn't completely invested in. So I took a really huge gamble by only applying to 4 universities. So those were my 4 choices. And like, I'll talk through each of the universities individually throughout this video. But I'm going to start first of all talking about why I chose Oxford. So Oxford is the university that I'm currently studying at. I'm a first year medic, like I said before, and I kind of feel like the reasons for me picking Oxford are kind of not really obvious, but they're usually your go-to reasonings for people choosing this as university to go to. So Oxford is currently the best university in the world for medicine, and I have always been a high achiever. So if you know me personally, you'll know my sort of journey throughout school and like how I'd always try and achieve like the top grades, and I feel like I had a lot of influence from my parents at home as well to help me sort of push myself to getting really high grades. So I'm going to use some concealer to neaten this up because this is messy, but I usually fill in my brows messily to begin with and then I neaten it up later, so don't judge me. But yeah, so Oxford was the #1 university for my subject, and like, Oxford is Oxford, like it's heavily renowned, it's a really well-known institution. It's something that I had been aspiring to go to for not really a while, but for a relatively long time. So either Oxford or Cambridge for me were like my top choices, and I felt like, okay, if I put in enough effort and I put in enough work to do this and I do like all of the things I need to do for my application, then I potentially have a good shot at maybe even getting an interview and then getting an offer, hopefully. But I think one thing that's really funny is that I haven't always been interested in going to Oxford. I originally was heavily set on applying to Cambridge. So for the majority of my application and me sort of growing up, I had at the back of my mind I wanted to apply to Cambridge because I just felt like it was the better place for me. But like I said earlier, going to open days or just visiting universities is really key, because I found that Cambridge for me personally was just too quiet. Like, it was too villagey, too towny, and I felt like I wouldn't necessarily be happy there. But when I went to visit Oxford, so I was able to go on a residential, I had seen, oh my gosh, I've just messed this up. we continue. But yeah, so when I went to visit Oxford at a residential, I just felt like it was more close to home. So it was a lot more loud, a lot more busy, and I just personally preferred that university. I've actually messed up my brows and I'm very sad, so I'm gonna neaten it up as I go along. Okay, so I find that whenever I do my brows, they're just never the same, like, ever. And I usually have to sort of hope that they come out okay. So I've neatened it up a bit more so it looks better than it did. But I'll blend all of this concealer out, like I won't leave it like this. But yeah, continuing on. So I went to visit Oxford when I was on a residential. So I went to Oxford on 2 occasions for residential. So the first occasion was with Target Oxbridge, which is a program catered for students of African and Caribbean descent, and they had a residential for us in the Easter time that we could go to. And that was the first time that I had sort of stayed in Oxford properly. So we stayed at Trinity College, and I just personally preferred the atmosphere and the vibe. And for me, because the course structure for Oxford and Cambridge are very similar, I felt like regardless of where I went, I'd still receive the same level of teaching. The only difference would be where I'd be living, because the degree is 6 years long at Oxford for undergraduate entry. So I felt like if I want to spend 6 years somewhere, I want to spend 6 years in a place where I will be happy, and I felt like I'd be happiest at Oxford. And then the second occasion where I got to have a residential was through a summer school called Unique. So Unique is run by Oxford to sort of give people an example of what it would be like if they were potentially an undergraduate student at Oxford. So I got into the medicine course, and when I tell you, that was one of my favourite weeks ever. So we sort of had a full week where we had sort of sample lectures, sample tutorials, we had help with our applications, we had some workshops in regards to personal statements and interviews and everything. We got to sightsee around Oxford and interact with current students at the time, and it was such a fun week. Like, it was a really fun week, and it was basically Unique that sort of confirmed for me that I definitely wanted to make Oxford my top choice. And in the UK, when it comes to Oxford and Cambridge, you could only pick one, so you can't pick both Oxford and Cambridge. So out of the two, I then ended up picking Oxford, and I'm very happy with the choice that I made because I'm currently here now. But that was just the atmosphere. And I'm gonna put some foundation on. So I use the Fenty Beauty Soft Matte Long Wear Foundation in the shade 450. And I feel like this is the shade that actually properly works for me, so I'm gonna have to move my hair aside so I can reach my forehead. But yeah, so the course at Oxford is 6 years long, and it's split up into 2 phases. So there is a preclinical phase, which is years sort of almost 1 to 3, where you sort of focus on the sciences behind medicine. So you focus on how things work in the body, what things in the body are, and you just sort of pay more attention to the sciences behind everything. And then later on in the second phase, the second half, you have the clinical phase, which is where you practice your knowledge out in the field. So you have clinical practice in hospitals and in GPs, and you sort of learn more of the skill-based learning. So how to put catheters in, how to take arterial blood gases, etc. So that would be like in years 4 to 6. And I felt like, for me, I felt more reassured doing the course in that way, because I didn't want to go immediately into the hospital and just start jabbing patients and interacting with patients too early, because I wanted to ensure that I had a good foundation of knowledge before I went into the hospitals, so understanding the basics first for me just appealed a bit more. But I then eventually found that when I came to Oxford, we actually do get some patient contact, which is cool. So we have GP sessions where we just practice how to interact with people, where we sort of develop our sort of communication skills and our social skills, so that when we do come across potential patients, we kind of have had experience with it. So we're not completely isolated in that. We do have some experience with it. But yeah, I just felt like that would be the best way for me to get a lot of knowledge out of my subject personally. And then for me, again, the reason why I chose Oxford over Cambridge was because of the predicted grades. So for when I was applying, at least, the grade requirement for medicine at Oxford was A star, AA. But at Cambridge, it was 2 A stars and an A. And that is quite difficult to get. Like, that is very difficult to get. And I didn't want to put myself in a position where I was like overworking myself so much that I'd sort of lose motivation. So I felt like A star AA was definitely more achievable than 2 A stars and an A. And even though I was predicted 2 A stars and an A, it was still more comforting for me to have the requirement of an A star AA. So I felt like out of all of the subjects that I took, so I took chemistry, bio and maths, I felt like chemistry and maths I'd most likely get an A star in, and biology an A, which is what my actual prediction was, and that's what I actually ended up getting in my results. So even though I did meet the Cambridge requirements, I didn't want the pressure of having to get those requirements. Like, I felt more at ease having to only need to get A star AA, so that was a lot more comforting, because I had a lot of things going on behind the scenes as well. So I was deputy head girl of my school, so I had to help organize things in regards to that. So I just didn't want to put so much pressure on myself. So that actually worked out in my favour. So I'm actually very happy that I applied to Oxford over Cambridge. I'm having a great time, but I know a lot of my friends who do go to Cambridge are also having equally as fun as a time. But I just felt for me personally that Oxford was like my best bet to ensure that I had a lot of fun, basically. But yeah. Okay, so my foundation is now on. I may add another layer in a bit, but I think I might go into doing my eye makeup first instead of last, like I did the last time. Right. So I'm going to start off by using my Revolution Conceal and Define, but I'm going to start off by using that on my eyelids. And then I've got another concealer shade in white, so I can actually see what makeup colours I'm using, because a lot of the times makeup doesn't show as brightly on my skin tone as it does others. So I'm just going to use this as a base so it's all a consistent colour underneath, and then I'll go from there. My second university choice was St Andrews, and St Andrews is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful town in Scotland, near somewhere called Lucas, I don't know how to pronounce it, but I have been in love with St Andrews for as long as I can remember, and I don't know what it was. I feel like it was a joke because of Prince William and Kate going there, being like, oh, if I go to St Andrews I'll find my prince there, but I don't know what it was. Like, I just did a lot of research about the university, and just everything about it just made me feel so happy and at peace. Like, it was just so great. And I knew for a very long time that like my top 2 choices were going to be Oxford and St Andrews, and for a while I was even contemplating putting St Andrews first because of how in love I was with that university. Like, if Oxford didn't exist, St Andrews would be my #1 choice, and that's where I would be right now. And St Andrews was just, I love that place so much. But the thing is with the St Andrews course is that the degree is actually only 3 years, which is kind of weird, but they teach you everything in 3 years, and in your last 3 years you have the choice to either continue it at a university, a different university in Scotland, or you have the choice of the London or the England route, which was Manchester and London. So for me, I didn't really care. Like, I would have been fine regardless, because I was so in love with St Andrews that I didn't mind if it was only just, if I only spent 3 years there. But for some people it's quite an issue, because you want to sort of stay in one place for 6 years or 5 years rather than going to one place and then going to another. But like I said before, I was so in love with St Andrews, I just didn't really care. But St Andrews is quite a small town. Everything was very close to each other, which is okay, but I felt like seeing the same things over and over again would be very annoying. But I heard that when it came to sort of social life aspects, a lot of people sort of go to the neighbouring towns if they want to go clubbing or something, which I would be willing to do, and it didn't really bother me too much. But I know for some people that's sort of didn't really appeal to them. Yeah, so I went to visit St Andrews for their walk and talk tour in my summer holidays. So I'd like spoken to my parents beforehand saying, okay, I'm really interested in this university, I'd really like to visit it. So we took a flight up to Scotland to check it out for like a day or for a couple of days. But I realised from doing that it would be very expensive going to St Andrews, because every time I finish a term or finish a year, I'd have to transport a lot of my stuff either via train or via plane or via car, and it would either be very, very long or very, very expensive. And although I was really in love with the university, like, I had to be realistic, and it was something that definitely made me realise that it would not necessarily be a good idea to sort of apply there, but I still did. Like, I was like, you know what, we'll find a way, we'll work things out, hopefully things run in our favour. And so yeah, I used St Andrews as my insurance choice, which was my second choice in my application, and I went from there. So St Andrews is well renowned for its training, so they start from the get-go for people to have skills trained and taught to them, which is really good. So I've heard like a lot of people who graduate from St Andrews are usually quite they're quite like, not, I don't want to say, they're very, very much respected, but they're really, people have an eye on people who go to St Andrews because they have a lot of experience compared to other medical students who may not have had training from like the get-go. Okay, so the outline is done and it's very messy. As you can tell, I like to do things messily to begin with and then I neaten it up after. So I'm gonna whip out my palette and go from there. Okay, so I've got my Morphe palette and I'm going to use this shade. My mum was also as equally in love with the university as I was because of its location. It's quite near a beach. And it was just a really nice sort of town to live in, which is really, really cool. And so those are basically the reasons why I really love St Andrews. But my next choice, my next university choice was Imperial. And it's quite funny because I didn't choose Imperial for myself. I chose Imperial to make my mum happy, because a lot of these universities that I was applying to were quite far from home, and I'm like, I had to put down at least one London choice to make her happy, so she didn't feel like I was trying to go as far away from home as possible. So I put down Imperial for her. But Imperial is still a really great university. Like, it's again a really top worldwide university. It's got loads of great tutors. many people who are top in their field, so it's really well renowned. But the problem with me is I didn't want to stay close to home. I wanted to be a lot more independent, branch out, experience different things. But Imperial, again, like, I don't know, I chose it so mum would be happy. But Imperial, like with Oxford, it's, oh, I didn't say before, St Andrews grade requirements were 3As, which I thought was somewhat achievable, so that helped me put at ease. But like with Oxford, Imperial's grade requirements when I applied were A star, AA. So I felt like if I was working towards Oxford, then I could also put down Imperial on my list as well, because if I've got the grades for Oxford, then I've technically also got the grades for Imperial. So I just took that route. If I were to stay at Imperial, I had the choice of either staying at home and commuting to uni, or renting out with them. But the problem is, living in London as a student is very expensive. But then I also didn't want to have to continue to stay at home, because again, I wanted to be as independent as possible, sort of develop myself and have like spend time away from parents so I could find myself and sort of discover my intentions in life. So that was kind of what put me off Imperial, because it would mean I'd have to commute from home, because I didn't want to have to spend excessive amounts of money for rent, because it just wouldn't be fair to my parents to have to pay a lot. But yeah, Imperial is a really good university. Its structure is again similar to that of Oxford, where they spend like the first few years learning about the sciences behind particular things, and then you go on to do your clinical practice later on. But then they also include what is called I think an intercalated year. So that's like a part of the course where you have a project that you do based off of something medically or sciencey, and Oxford does also have that in year 3, so at end of year 2, year 3. But there was a bigger focus at the open day for Imperial about it, so it kind of stuck in my mind more. So it would have been cool to be able to like do a project to sort of focus a bit more on particular things. So for me, I want to specialise right now in neurology. So I remember at the open day when I went to go to it, I saw that there was a sort of topic in regards to neurology, so I was like, oh, okay, so if I do come here, then I've got the option to do this, so I can continue and deepen my knowledge, or deepen like my interest in brains and stuff, which was cool. I think for what it is, like what I'm trying to do, this could look really cool, but this depends heavily on whether or not I can neaten it up nicely. We shall see. Okay, this doesn't look entirely awful, and that works well with me. I think what works in my favour is that I've got quite hooded eyelids, so like there's a lot of mistakes, like if I raise my eyes like this, like you can see quite a few errors, but because like my eyes crease a bit, it's good, like you can't tell it too much. I'm just gonna hide the red from me neatening it up with some foundation here, but other than that, this is okay. I think I might, yeah, I'm gonna add some lashes, which will also take me a very long time to do because I'm not experienced when it comes to makeup, as you guys can probably tell through me trying to do my makeup. So we'll see how this goes. People who are able to put on lashes like with no hassle, I commend you. I commend you, because me putting on lashes is like the worst thing ever. Like it's just very difficult. Okay, so the second one is on. I actually can't believe it. Usually when it comes to me putting on lashes, it takes like many reattempts because it just never goes on properly when I want it to. Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, the last university I have left to talk about is Nottingham. So Nottingham's grade requirements were AAA. So like St Andrews, I felt like it would be calm. I actually didn't do as much research about Nottingham as I did the others because I just wasn't as passionate about Nottingham as I was with the others. But yeah, eyes are kind of done. I'm gonna go back to my face and see what I can do with that. But yeah, so with Nottingham, I just wasn't as passionate about that university as I was with the others. So I wasn't completely fussed about like its location or what else it had to offer. Like I just wanted to put down a fourth option. And I didn't visit Nottingham on an open day. So I asked my friends who had gone on open days for their opinions of university. So a lot of them did like Nottingham. So I just kind of like hoped they were telling me the truth, so I put that down as my fourth option. Like with St Andrews, I thought the grade requirements were achievable to an extent, so I just went from there. So I'm liking how this look is looking so far. I'm gonna go with my LA Girl Pro Concealer and just conceal and go from there. But yeah, I don't know actually. I didn't really put in as much attention to Nottingham as I did the others, so I just put down Nottingham for the sake of putting down Nottingham. I could have, to be fair, put down any university, but that's just what I chose. So that was like my personal reasonings behind a lot of universities, but there are other factors that all of them I had to consider. For all of them I had to consider. So one being the assessments I had to do beforehand. So when it comes to medical school, I think, I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but there are 2 assessments that we have to do, or that we could do if we want to apply to medical school. One being the BMAT and one being the UCAT. But when I did it, it was called the UK CAT, but it's now called the UCAT, I think. The BMAT is required by a handful of universities. The majority of UK universities require the UCAT. So the UCAT is an assessment that is split up into 4 sections, which is verbal reasoning, maths, non-verbal, I think, and situational judgment. Hi, editing Tolu here. There are actually 5 sections to the UK CAT, and they are verbal reasoning, decision making, quantitative reasoning, abstract reasoning, and situational judgment. So that was that. And then the BMAT has 3 sections, where 1 is based off of sort of aptitude, 2 is based off of your scientific knowledge from like GCSEs and maybe a little bit of A-levels, and 3 is based off your written skills and your ability to write essays. So they're very different, and sometimes the outcome for each of them can also be as very different too. So I didn't want to put all of my eggs in one basket when it came to the assessments, because I felt like, oh, even if I were to practice on the day of the assessment, I may like get a really good BMAT score and a really bad UK CAT score, or the other way around. And I felt like in order for me to avoid that, it would be smart to have 2 of each. So Oxford and Imperial require the BMAT, and St Andrews and Nottingham required the UK CAT or the UCAT. So I felt like if I have half and half, I can sort of split what they expected me, so that if things don't necessarily go my way for one of them, I've at least got the other one as a backup. So I kind of did that strategically, and it's sometimes really helpful doing things strategically, because you've got to remember that even if you do a lot of preparation, sometimes things like on the day may just go weirdly, so it's just nice to like sort of plan ahead of what you're going to do. So half and half at BMAT, half and half at UK CAT. And it actually ended up being in my favour, because for my UK cat I had a 710 average, which is actually quite a reasonably good score, so I was really proud of that. And then for my BMAT, which didn't go as well as I had hoped, it was still enough for me to receive interviews from Imperial and Oxford. So the way Imperial uses for BMAT is that they have a minimum cutoff score, but for Oxford they sort of add up all of the sections and like they have some sort of thing that they do that works in them. But I was just lucky enough that my scores were like enough for both of them, and then again for my UK cat that my scores for them were enough for both of the universities. And again, another thing that influenced my decision was the format of the interviews, because not all of the interviews run the same way. So for Imperial and Oxford, they have interviews for a panel approach, so you sit in front of a group of people and they ask you questions and you just answer questions from there. So yeah, I've got the Banana Dreams powder by W7, which is like a dupe of another powder. This just can go everywhere, like you can see that, like it's even on my neck. But yeah, continuing on, St Andrews and Nottingham have the MMI format, which is just different stations with like small questions, some like more practical stuff. But I feel like with interviews, like don't let the interview format for university sort of put you off applying there, because you can still practice for them regardless. The contour is actually showing up. This is a miracle. This is actually a miracle. So it's like not too dark. I'm gonna like blend it out here. Oh, and also my contour palette, before I forget, is the NYX Cream Highlighting Contour. And I think I'm kind of done with this. There's still a lot of powder in my hair, but we'll sort of overlook that. I guess I can call this the finished result. But yeah, as a quick summary, my university choices were Oxford, St Andrews, Imperial and Nottingham. The factors that influenced what I put as my top choice and my second choice and like etc. was location, sometimes position on the league table, but don't always let that sway you, because there are different league tables around that will say different things, but league tables can sort of help you influence. One thing that I forgot to mention is student satisfaction. So alongside league tables, students conduct surveys about how they find their university. So looking at student satisfaction is really handy as well, so you can see like how students feel at those universities. So what did I say? So location, league tables, grade requirements as well, if you're worried about potential grades that you need. And just like general feel, so go to open days and check it out for yourself to see what things are really like, and yeah, you can sort of go from there. Let me set my makeup. Okay, so yeah, hopefully I've said some things that could help you out with your own application. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below and I'll try my best to answer as many as possible. Like I said, I'll leave all the details of all the things that I used in the description box below as well. And yeah, that was me blabbing. But yeah, I'm really happy with today's look, and I feel like it works well with my natural hair too. Obviously with practice I'll improve, but for like what it's worth with the eye look as well, this is kind of okay. That's it. But thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!